Hello again, this is Chuck Bass doing part 2 of the Advanced MTT HUD series. Before watching this video, I extremely strongly suggest that you watch part 1 first, because otherwise it will be quite difficult to get a hold of where we are at the moment, because I'm just going to jump straight into this without further ado. So if you didn't watch part 1, please do. And we'll go to the HUD stuff in about 2 minutes. But before that, I just want to remind you guys about some extremely simple math. And if I'm doing math, it has to be simple, because I'm like the least mathematical guy who ever made it a poker professional. So you really should know this, and I'm pretty sure you do, but this will be extremely important for the stuff we are going to be doing regarding the HUDs in about a few minutes. So I reckon we should just really quickly go over this. So this is some very simple preflop math. Assuming that there are 10% antes, the empty pot sizes, meaning that what the pot size is before anyone bets preflop, anyone raises, anyone limps, anyone does anything, they are 2.4 BB for full ring and 2.1 BB for 6 max, because one big blind comes from the big blind, half big blinds come from the small blind, and the rest come from the antes. Shouldn't be too difficult. And note that realistically these days the antes are almost always bigger than 10%. 10% is kind of the industry standard still, I guess, because they used to always be 10% for so long. But especially on stars and full tilt, the antes are like, I don't know, 12% on average, I would say. So keep in mind that the numbers I'm about to show are actually even more in the raiser's favor than it would appear. So since these are the pot sizes in an empty pot, how often does a min raise have to work for you to make immediate profit, or in this case to break even? So for full ring, a min raise has to work 45% of the time, and for 6 max it has to work 49% of the time. So yeah, it's not really more difficult than that. I mean, let's say it's 500 with 10% antes and it comes to you on the button. Let's say it's 500, 1000, and 100 antes. So there's 2000 in the pot, you min raise 2000. It's exactly 50% it has to work for you to break even right there. However, this is not really the point, because assuming that these numbers here would be correct, it would mean that you're going to lose 100% of the pots where they do not fold. So it would also mean that when you're raising with aces and some guy flats his big blind, you would actually just open fold. Like you would just muck before even seeing the flop, basically. But realistically, you're still going to be winning probably more than half of those pots. And it becomes a really complex equation if you try to think about it further than that, because you're also going to be losing this and this amount of big blinds every now and then. You're going to be winning heaps every now and then. So I have no clue how to quantify it beyond this. But like, given that you're going to be winning probably around half the pots when they flat with a C bet, probably a bit more actually. Occasionally you're going to be able to 4-bet, both as a bluff and for value, and so on and so on. I would suspect that realistically these numbers would be something like, I don't know, 65% ish. Could be wrong, but it's not really the point though. Like, I don't think there's any way in the world for you to come up with the exact numbers for each situation, because each situation always depends on the villains. But just for what we're about to do with the HUD stuff, just like keep these numbers in mind. Just, you don't have to think about them more than even just realizing that a raise has to work around 50% of the time for you to make immediate profit for sure, unless you're the worst postal player in the world.